Alright, so there are a few more things that I want to talk about when it comes to the intent attribute inside the DF Messenger tag. So let's take a look at the DF Messenger welcome intent we had before, and notice that you have the welcome event set inside that intent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you in the integrations pane. If you were to go and take a look at the auto-generated code snippet, so notice that inside the DF Messenger tag you have this intent equals welcome attribute, right? So let's go back to the intent which had that event. Now I'm going to delete this event from this intent, and what I'm going to do after that is, so let it save for a second. Now let's go back to the integrations and let's go and check out the auto-generated code. Notice that now inside the DF Messenger tag you have the other three attributes, the title and the agent ID, the language code, but you don't have the intent equals welcome attribute. So what is happening here is that Dialogflow is looking at all the intents you have in your agent, and it's checking to see if any of them have the welcome event, and if they don't, it's going to remove that from the auto generated code snippet, and you'll see why very soon as we go through the rest of this video. So what we have right now is there is this parallel welcome intent which does have this event called parallel, right? And what will happen, so now let's go back to the WebStorm, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, add this back, but this time I'm just going to use the parallel as the event. Alright, so let's open this page and just wait for a second, and you can see that it comes with hello from the parallel universe, which is the if you might remember, that's the response coming from the parallel universe welcome intent, right? On the other hand, if I were to delete this event, let's say I delete this event, save it, and let's go back to the editor here and let's run this or let's open this page, and notice that it's coming with sorry I didn't get that, can you rephrase. Now what's happened here is that it sent an event using the intent attribute. The event's name was parallel, but that event is not actually present in any of the intents in the agent, so it just goes to the fallback intent. Alright, so if you have this event in one of the intents, then it will trigger that intent. On the other hand, if you don't have this event in any of the intents, it is just going to go to the fallback response. So that's something that we have observed. Now the other thing that I want you to see is, let's go back to Dialogflow, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add this event back here, save it. Now let's go to the integrations tab, open this, and notice that it has this intent equals welcome. So what I'll do is I'll take this welcome intent. So I'm going to sort of okay, let me just do it. In fact, I'll copy this, go back here, and I'll paste it over here. So we are back to the, so what we have here in this tag is just the default information which is automatically generated by Dialogflow inside the Dialogflow console, right? And so now if you were to open this page, notice that it comes back with the welcome to the new and improved Dialogflow Messenger message, which is exactly what we expect. And so if I were to delete the welcome event also, let's go back and do that. Delete the welcome event, save it. Let's go to the editor, and remember that the intent which is supposed to fire is corresponding to this welcome event, but the welcome event itself has been deleted from the agent right now. Let's open this page, and it comes back with one more time, which is actually the phrase which is found in the fallback intent. So in other words, it triggered the fallback intent in the same way that it did when we were actually looking at the parallel event, but the event was actually deleted from the agent, right? So now we have considered 4 cases, right? The first case is what happens if you choose an intent equals event value where the event is not the sort of the default value which is welcome, but instead we use a different one, the parallel event. What happens if that event is present in the bot versus it's not, and then we use the default which is welcome, and what happens if it's present in the bot and it's not. And then I'm going to show you another case where you don't have this attribute at all, right? So you don't have this intent equals something attribute at all. And now if you were to open the page, basically nothing happens because it's not triggering any event. So you have to actually click on this to start interacting with your bot. Okay, so this is fine. Now what does this actually mean? Now let's go back to, I have a set of scenarios that I'm describing in this table over here, where I'll just go over all the things that we saw. If the intent attribute is present, so what I mean by that is if you had this intent equals something attribute inside the DF messenger tag, if the intent attribute is present and it uses the default welcome intent, so in this case it's not the if it doesn't use the default welcome intent event, for example if it uses the event called parallel and that event is present in the bot, then the custom intent will fire. This is the intent which corresponds to the event named parallel, right? And if it has the intent attribute, it does not use the default welcome event, but the event is not present in the bot, it's going to the fallback intent. If it has the intent attribute, it uses the default welcome event and the event is present in the bot, it's going to fire the welcome intent. If it has the intent attribute, it uses the default welcome event, but that event is not present in the bot, then it's going to the fallback intent. And finally, if it has no intent attribute, which is the last scenario we just saw, in these cases are not relevant to that example, then what happens is that there will be no automatic prompt, but the default fallback intent will not fire either, right? It's just going to wait for the user to send a message. So that also explains what's going on with how Dialogflow auto generates this code for us over here. So now because this agent for now it has no intent which has the welcome event, it's not going to pre-populate your auto-generated code with an event that you can use because it knows that will go to the fallback, right? And if that was firing where the bot is just going to prompt the user, but unfortunately it's coming with the default fallback message, it will definitely throw off any website visitors who come to your site, right? So that's why they don't use that parameter. They don't automatically add the intent equals attribute into the DF messenger tag if you don't have the welcome event in your bot. So I just wanted to point out all these different scenarios that you need to keep in mind as you're using the intent attribute inside your Dialogflow messenger tag.